When the email landed, one word stood out in the subject line, and that was redundancy. No explanation, no warning, it was just that. And I stared at my Mac like it was about to apologize to me. 12 minutes later, I'm doing some frantic maths inside my head. Mortgage, bills, family, food, panic. Right, so this is happening then, is it? Righto, good old stoic British nature kicked in. But because life has got a bit of a sense of humour, I heard a voice inside my head that said, "Mate, what if this is actually the moment?" If you've lost your job or you can feel that email hovering or lurking in the shadows, stay with me. By the end of this video, you'll see how after 18 months after that subject line punched me in the face, I replaced my full-time salary with that of being a freelancer, and why redundancy turned out to be the best career plot twist I never asked for. At the time of recording this video, we're just moving into Christmas or the holiday season, and it's never a good time of year to get that "you're out" email. Over, maybe, but not out. In this video, I'll share my 12-month roadmap that I used to get me to where I am now, and it's yours to copy for free. This is whether you want a full-time job, freelance work, or potentially a mix of both. And just so you know, the fear, the shame, the 2 a.m. doom scrolling of job boards, and raiding the fridge all at the same time? Yeah, I've been to all of those places. First, let's go back to the day that everything changed. The rewind. I'd been in corporate for years, good salary, gold airline status, and the usual trimmings that make your LinkedIn profile look super shiny. Not mine, I never liked mine looking that way. I always wanted mine to be a little bit different. Anyway, I digress. In fact, my youngest son often winds me up about having swallowed a corporate dictionary when I speak. Then a change of boss, not leader. I had a couple of bosses, and the rumour mill started, the whispers began, people had private meetings, and suddenly my role was surplus to requirements. All of a sudden, that's it, that is me done, just like that. And if you've been through it, you know the taste of that emotional cocktail. Shock, embarrassment, panic. And somewhere in there, weirdly, there's relief too. For a few days, my brain was running at light speed on two competing storylines. Story number one, you've failed, you're back to square one, congrats Norf, well done. Story two, or could this be the moment you finally bet on yourself, Norf? If you're in that emotional dip right now, here's lesson number one. Redundancy is data, not a verdict. It's the end of a chapter and not the end of the book. Once you see it that way, you can then stop arguing with it and start deciding what you want to do next. In a minute, I'll show you exactly the 3 things that led me to my first freelance set of clients. And spoiler, none of these actually involve designing the perfect logo. After the shock subsides, you hit a fork in the road. Most people default to, and quite rightly so, updating their CV, fire out as many applications as possible, pray that something sticks before the redundancy money, if any, runs out. I've been there, I've done that, I sent out 120 or so different applications and got no bites. However, this perspective and this approach is absolutely right for some. However, there is another path that rarely gets talked about, using all, or in my case, some of my redundancy money as a runway to launch my freelancing or portfolio career. Here's how to pressure test whether freelancing is a real option. 3 things. First, skills. Is there something people have already paid you for? Not hypothetically, actually paid you cold hard cash to do. Second, network. Is there a group of people like ex-colleagues, clients, partners, friends who know what you can do? Third, risk appetite. Could you handle a couple of wobbly months if there was a clear path forwards? When I looked at those 3, I realized I'd been doing video, storytelling, and client work for years inside other companies. I also had a network who already trusted me and already knew what I could do. And finally, the thought of going straight back into another identical role made the bottom fall out of my stomach quicker than the idea of backing myself. So I made myself a deal. Give freelancing a proper shot, Norf. And 1, if it goes sideways, cool. At least you've given it a go and you can say that you've thrown everything at it. I'll just have to get myself a job doing something or other. However, if it works, I get to design my days, I get to pick the people I choose to work with and build something with my name over the door. Next, let me get practical and tangible. How do you go from I have no job to I have my first client without cold pitching the entirety of the internet? Imagine freelancing. It all starts from zero. You've got to build a brand new website, a new brand, new everything. It's a lot to take on. Or is it? Actually, it's not, because you're not starting from zero. You're starting from your years of experience and relationships that you've already built. So here's what I did in the first month. You can literally copy these 3 steps. Step 1, I listed between 15 and 30 people in my existing network. And these were old colleagues, old clients, people who've seen what I can do and I've delivered good or great work. Essentially anyone who knows your name. Step 2, send human messages, not sales pitches. It could be something like, hey, here's a quick update. I've wrapped up at company X, whatever it is, and I'm now doing A, B, and C as a freelancer. No pressure at all, just keeping you in the loop. If you ever need help with specific thing, please give me a shout. Best regards, leave your name, and more importantly, how to contact you, be it your phone number or your socials. Keep it light and friendly, zero desperation. Step 3, define 1 or 2 clear services or offerings. Change I can do everything to I help companies tell better stories on camera, or I create short form content without wasting your team's time. My first few bits of work didn't come through strangers. They actually came from people who I knew who said, "Oh, you're on your own. We've been thinking about doing more video." In fact, my biggest piece of work recently came through a recommendation. So here's your action. You can come back to this bit, but you can pause the video here, grab a notebook and a pen or pencil, and write down between 15 and 30 names. People who know you. Then draft a simple, honest message. Not begging, not desperate, and not pretending. Just letting them know what you're now available to help with. Spend some time refining your message and keep it true to you. The next big lever wasn't just private messages, although they got things moving. It was showing up publicly. And for me, public content kept things moving. That was LinkedIn posts, short form video, and YouTube, of course. Talking honestly about my experiences of freelancing, the career pivot, and the messy reality behind the scenes. Here's a simple content blueprint that you can steal. Start with the real problem or moment that you faced. Share what you did about it, and then explain the lesson or the outcome. End with a soft invite. If you're dealing with this too, drop me a message. This way you're not shouting, "I'm here, available to hire, pick me, pick me." You're demonstrating this is how you think, this is how I work. In other words, telling stories that demonstrate your value and your personality. That's how inbound opportunities started to show up. People would DM me saying, "I've been following your posts, Norf, can we chat about content?" Or, "We're going through a similar transition. Could you come in and run a session for my team?" The key is consistency, not perfection. No one cares if your first posts are a bit rough around the edges. That said, be sure to get the basics right. In short, remember the acronym SLACCA. Yes, SLACCA. I created a video on it and I'll leave it just up here and also in the description, but it stands for space, light, audio, camera, clothing, and accessibility. People will remember that you showed up every week, shared something of value, and didn't vanish. Next, let's talk about cash, specifically the 3 revenue engines that actually got me through the first year and how long it took me before things stopped feeling like a free fall. So here's the thing everyone worries about after redundancy. Of course, it's money. In year 1, 3 engines drove the majority of my income. First, it was project work. These were one-off video projects, content packages, and workshop-style sessions. They usually came from people in my existing network who needed a specific outcome. It could have been a case study, a video series of shorts, or helping presenting authentically on camera. Second were client retainers. After a few successful projects, a couple of clients just said to me, "Can we just keep you on? Is that all right?" That turned into a monthly agreement where I produced a set amount of content and helped with their strategy. Retainers are gold for your nervous system because they give you predictable income instead of everything being feast or famine. Third were speaking, training, and coaching assignments. I spent years presenting on and off camera. Teams wanted help with that. So I built a few simple offers: camera confidence workshops and storytelling sessions. I've also been pulled in by other clients to act as their event host or master of ceremonies, bringing the energy and engagement, ensuring in-person conferences or events ran to time and their audience walked away with much more than when they first came in. Though here's the thing that most people get wrong though. They expect all of this to happen in month 1. The reality is it won't. Month 1 will be likely a little bit dry. Months 2 and 3, some early projects may land. Months 4 to 6, confidence grows, your offers start to sharpen, and your income stabilizes. Months 9 to 12, you start thinking, wait a minute, this might actually just work. Now I get the desperation. I've been there, I completely understand that. However, if you're consistently reaching out to your network, showing up online, and delivering great experiences for the clients that you work with, those 3 engines, projects, retainers, and teaching, these revenue streams start compounding. Now, I'm not going to pretend that this was all smooth sailing or sunshine and rainbows. This was a deep-seated mindset shift for me. There were months where the numbers just were character building, let's just say, or frankly, plain scary, let's just call it for what it is. Because I've been in full-time employment, I knew that there was a regular income coming in, but I had to switch my mindset. One big project fell through the cracks just at the last minute, and there were weeks where I questioned everything. Should I have just stayed in my nice, sensible corporate box? Then there's the identity wobble. You go from some vice president or manager of whatever to just you. And in my situation, it is just me in Tight Spot Studios, wearing slacks, talking to you through a camera, with my own discipline when the camera's not running. Here's what kept my head and my focus straight. Even a few months of essentials covered gives you space to make smart moves and not desperate ones. Minimum weekly habits. For example, every week I'd send 5 messages to people, post 2 pieces of content, and create 1 new offer, or ruminate on an idea. Even when motivation is lacking, stick to the minimums. And here's the big one. For me, this was massive. Separating self-worth from revenue. A slow month doesn't mean that you're failing or a bad person or a bad professional. Far from it. It just means that the system needs tweaking. If you expect these hard bits instead of being surprised by them, you're far less likely to bail just before things start compounding. So with all of this in mind, with year 1 looking messy, but importantly working, how do you level up in year 2? Looking back, if year 1 was prove this can work, year 2 is make this sustainable. Here are 3 upgrades I'd recommend planning for. Number 1, productize nice and early. Instead of only trading hours for money, create clear named offers or packages. For example, a foundations package, or a monthly content engine, or a camera confidence sprint. Clear offers make it easier for clients to say yes and easier for you to deliver efficiently. Secondly, protect CEO time. You're not just the talent anymore, you're the CEO of your solo business. And that means blocking time each week to work on the business, not just in it. Review the numbers, refine your offers, plan content, and nurture relationships. Third is to build leverage. That could be a newsletter, a membership, it could be a course, or a repeatable workshop. The idea here is to create things once that you can serve multiple people with, so you're not capped by your calendar, and you can scale. Year 2 is where you shift from hustling to designing a business that actually fits your life. And the beautiful thing here is that the lessons from a messy year 1 are actually what make year 2 so powerful. If you've just been made redundant or worried that email might land in your inbox, here's what I did and what you could potentially do next. During your first 7 days, let yourself feel the emotions. This was a very important phase for me, and I needed to get all of these feelings out so I could use them as fuel for the following few months. Then take an inventory, list your skills, your network, and your financial runway. Make that list of between 15 and 30 people and start to send your first 5 messages. By days 30 to 45, have defined 1 or 2 clear services or offerings. Start posting once or twice per week on the social platforms of your choice. Share real stories and real value that you've gleaned from them, not just "I'm available." Take on your first small project, even if it's not perfect. By days 90 to 120, aim to build at least one consistent revenue stream. A regular client, a recurring project, or a simple retainer. Review what's working and cut what isn't, and double down on the channels that are actually bringing you the conversations that you need. Now, these day markers were mine, and of course they're not guarantees. I do offer them to you more as guides, but of course your individual situation and timelines will of course vary. Redundancy will shake you. It will mess with your head. It did with mine. However, curiously, being in this situation also forces a question that most people avoid. Do I want to keep outsourcing my future to companies, or do I want to bet on myself? If you're standing at that crossroads and you know the crossroads that I'm talking about, drop redundant in capital letters in the comments and tell me where you're at. If enough of you do so, I'll create a follow-up video walking you through a sanitized version of some of the outreach scripts and the content plan that I used in my first 90 days. And if you want to go deeper right now, click the video that's on screen. This was my What Now video that took a while to put together. I wasn't in a great place. However, I do hope it does help, specifically if you're in the first few weeks after losing your job. You don't have to figure this out on your own. I'm happy to walk through this together with you. Thank you so much for getting to this point in the video. I really do appreciate you watching all the way to the end. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next time.